today's meeting, really, Ads is going to do the majority of it. She's going to run an exciting naming workshop. And then I'm going to just have an open floor at the end for any questions, concerns, thoughts that people have, or anything that you want me to be thinking about over the next week or two as we go into whatever the future calls will be and the future cadences. So that is it. I'm going to take a pause here. If anybody has any thoughts, if they want to put them in chat or just unmute themselves and talk, feel free. Not much. Great. I'm also going to say that I am a fast-talking human, so if I get going too much, feel free to tell me to slow down. Okay. Well, having said that, Ads, do you want to jump in and do a screen share here and kick off your workshop?
Yeah, sure. I feel like workshop feels a little grandiose for what I'm doing, but I will roll with it. Let me share my screen. I mean, it's great to see people in this call from so many different parts of our community. I know that everybody is super excited about V1 or what we have been calling V1. I would love to just have this kick off a discussion around naming. And I guess kind of to start with, like, why does it matter? So for me, I feel like it is worth looking at alternative names because I feel that V0 that undersells a protocol that has been very groundbreaking, delivering high quality of service, scaling, doing some really awesome things. And calling it V0 kind of feels like it undersells it. And at the same time, calling what Nijetsky and the team are building with V1, and if it feels like an early beta release for a startup, which again feels like it undersells that. So this has been something that I've wanted to look at and have been trying to figure out the best way to involve it. I had some really big ideas of kind of cool big things we could do around this, and then I just realized I just needed to get the ball rolling, which is what this is. Now, names obviously represent our identity. They communicate something, or they can and should communicate something about who we are and what's important to us. I actually spent quite a lot of time in Mongolia, where the name you give your children is a wish for their future, and it seemed to kind of bring about that future in a way. They certainly influence how we are perceived. Like, people make judgment calls based on names. Like, everybody's probably seen that data point about CVs getting more callbacks if their names give off certain characteristics. They should have some kind of positive meaning and symbolism. And obviously, I can't resist a good Shakespeare quote. So there we go. So what are we kind of looking for in a name? So for me, it should communicate something that's important to us. It should kind of refer to something or contain meaning that matters to Pocket Network. Ideally, it should be distinctive and fresh. It should be easy to say and easy to remember. You know, quite often you'll see things with like cool sounds. Short works, but so does long randomly in some instances. Alliteration's always cute. Some words just inherently sound cooler than others. Given that we are a global network, I really want to make sure that what we land with travels well. And ultimately, like, I want it to be something that particularly our core audience, like of end user devs, that they hear and it just sounds cool. And then ideally that it comes from a naming territory that's rich enough to facilitate future naming projects. And it doesn't have to necessarily come from exactly the same territory. Maybe it comes from a branching territory, because maybe protocols have their own theme and then upgrades of another theme and features of another theme. We'll look at Ethereum's naming scheme a little bit later so you can see how that works if you don't already know. So this is where you guys come in. So I've set up another Mentimeter. The links are here. And there are some questions. This is kind of the exploding out phase. As with all other brainstorming sessions we will ever do, there are no stupid answers. In fact, nobody will even know which ones you've said, so that's extra easy. But I thought we'd just start with looking at kind of areas that might have meaning for Pocket Network, and starting with what Pocket does or allows others to do. So I'm kind of, I guess, looking for categories or verbs. These could be very factual. They could be technical, they could be more emotional, kind of more ephemeral. But I would love, in fact, do you want me just to go back? Zach, would you mind just grabbing the link and just dropping it into the chat just so that, can you do
Yep.
that?
Already done.
Oh, amazing. All right. Just in case that's easier for people. And as I say, like, there are genuinely no wrong answers. I've dropped down a few. So we open access, we connect, we communicate. Bridge, I know, has specific connotations, so maybe isn't exactly right, but yeah, let's see what you got.
As we're on the QR screen, I just want to make sure that's the correct screen that we're seeing.
Okay. I haven't shared. Okay, sorry. I thought I'd shared my whole. Let me share a different screen with you then. Can I just share my window? Yeah.
The magic of Discord.
There we go. Can you see the right thing
Yep.
now?
Correct.
Excellent.
And so
Able.
so for this, is this just for the V0 or the V1, or is this a general naming scheme for all of the?
This is just brainstorming. This isn't product specific, protocol specific. It's not linked to V0. It's not linked to V1. It's thinking about core meaning for Pocket. So what does Pocket do or allow others to do? Ideally that we're proud of and that we're excited by, that's important to us. I'm going to ask somebody to talk to me about this term Babel, because I think it's a really interesting one and I'd love to hear where it came from. Decentralized, absolutely. Link, I like. Fluid, transmit, break free. I'd love, if anybody at any point in this call is willing to talk about the words they put down, like, please unmute yourself and jump in, because I'd love the additional context, particularly on, like, decentralized I get. Break free, I think, is just such an interesting emotive term. I'd love to hear more about that one. Corridor is interesting. I mean, these are all interesting, by the way. I'm not I'm not shutting down any. It's just the ones that I don't intuitively feel like I fully understand. I love. This is great.
Yeah, I can quickly speak to Babel, because that was me. And again, this is very much
Should have known, damn it.
stream of consciousness. But yeah, there's something cool about all of these different, I guess, ecosystems and communities speaking different languages, and Pocket being the interface to connect them all, so we can kind of all kind of speak kind of a shared language. Kind of going back to the Tower of Babel metaphor story. So yeah, there's something potentially there, but that doesn't really kind of create a foundation. Maybe because then you end up going back into what different countries' languages. So I think there might be something interesting on kind of a more technical consumer level or some other ideas. But yeah, just kind of spitballing a little bit.
Babel actually also links back into Web3 law. In the Tower of Babel comes up in Snow Crash.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool.
Isn't it? Another interesting parallel there.
The Snow Crash on my got my little library in my office, but I haven't read it yet, so all ahead of me.
Hey, anybody else want to talk to any of these terms or raise anything that they think is really important to them? I love the word love there, actually, and it's nice and big. So anybody want to talk to any of these terms?
Sure. I put baton. I think a baton is the tool that connects the two runners in a relay race, and kind of stuck out to me.
I really like that, and I'm actually really glad that you shared that context, because it helps me understand it. That's awesome. Thank you. Any more, or I will go to the next one. Okay, we're moving on. So that's the what. Now I want to talk about how we do it, and I have used decentralized here. Is there anything in our ways of working, in our approach, in our ethos, in our ideology, in what we're like as a community? Are there any elements in the how? These might be adjectives, they might be adverbs, they might be something else entirely. Curious to hear how you think we are as a community, how you think we are transparent. I really love that. Very glad somebody put that. What else have we got? go. Yeah, I really like all of these. Yeah. I love the word organic, but that's probably just me. I think there's something very powerful about that concept of kind of that organic growth, because it is permissionless and it is open and robust. I think it's really important. Robust is there. These are great. These are really good. Lens. Could whoever put that tell me about that word? And diamond, I'm also curious about. Redundantly, I really like. Air is interesting. If whoever put, because I think I understand the kind of root behind most of these words. The words I don't feel confident I understand the root for are air, diamond. Although maybe diamond's coming from that transparent and robust, potentially. I don't know if I'm just inferring too much there. And lens.
Sorry, that was
So
boring.
yeah.
It's only kind of jamming on the idea of open and transparent,
Okay.
and trying to provoke different ideas of a new kind of clear lens, kind of looking glass, a diamond that we can refract other people's intentions in different ways in an open and transparent way. Yeah, I guess kind of, again, just throwing some stuff out there.
Awesome. I'm not picking on you, Dermot, genuinely. This is really cool. Yeah, no, I love all of these. These are really helpful. And the goal with this is that each of these can spark off another universe of words and ideas. So right now we're just in that kind of initial stage. If any of these words spark anything for you that you think just sounds cool or is a cool word, similar to what Dermot's doing, like please do feel free to chuck those in. I might put you on the spot to explain them to me, but hopefully that's not too much of a deterrent. And if you don't want to, you can always DM me. Like the word organic, does anything come to mind for any of you from the word organic or from robust, like anything that triggers? So feel free to kind of drift off brief and throw more words up here. I genuinely have no way to see who put what up. Or if you feel you're at your limit, we can always, this will stay open, by the way. So the goal is that this Mentimeter will stay open, and I will share the link to it in Discord and on Telegram. And that way, and I've tried to set it so that there's no limit to how many you can do after last time's learning session. So you will be able to come back and add more. And then the kind of final one is, territories that might mean something to us in terms of the history of the project, the ethos. I've put in words like pioneer, inventor, that kind of OG concepts, Web3 to the bone kind of thing. Tampa, worlds we want to associate with. I guess within that you could have things like law, worlds of law or concepts. Now, if you feel like you've already covered this, feel free, but it feels like a different territory to me. So if any other words come to you, please note them here. Anyone got anything? Here we go. Polemic. Interesting. So is that you again?
It's not. I am about to throw out a slightly different one.
Okay, I'm definitely going to need people to give me explainers on these. Tecnoctitlan?
This is
Somebody correct.
Yeah, this actually is me, and actually was playing around with. The first time I heard the ideas about V1 was when I was invited to the Pocket offsite back in October-ish 2019 that was held outside of Mexico City. Yeah, and Tenochtitlan is I think it's the ancient name for what is now Mexico City, or CDM.
Cool. Polemic. Keep it polemic. I'd love to hear more about that. You can DM me if you don't want to be put on the spot, Nicole. The other territory I find interesting, and I'm throwing it out there so you can tell me that you don't, is that, oh, here we go. Is that pioneer and inventing piece? Are there any inventors that you immediately think of that you think are cool? Or I guess areas where we've seen groundbreaking inventions and progress, not necessarily blockchain. Are there any people you find resonate particularly with you, or that you feel are particularly interesting, or inventions that you think are particularly interesting? And Gulf, I'd love to hear where those come from. I think inclusive is really important. Because for me, so I mean, the pioneer and inventor one for me is just interesting because I think we don't get enough credit for the amount of thought leadership and pioneering that we have done. And, if we could hat tip ourselves in our name and link it to that concept, then it's another way to just subtly communicate it. But if that is not something that resonates, then that's cool too. I'm going to give it another few seconds. As I say, this will stay live. There's no big drama. Okay. Let's go to the next one. This might be overkill, so if nobody wants to respond to this, feel free not to. But it's just kind of, out of all of the things that you have mentioned or seen mentioned on the previous slides, is there anything that you particularly like that you want to just underline? Is there anything that particularly kind of you saw and you thought, that's quite cool? Or yeah, no, that out of everything that you've seen put up, this is the most important thing. Here's like your underlining screen. So polemic, okay? Whoever put this is going to have to tell me what the thought behind this is, because I'm curious. Is that somebody I'm muting? Are you just playing with me? Pontifex, okay. What is Pontifex?
That one was me. So Pontifex is like the title of the Pope, and in Latin it means the builder of bridges. Something we kind of do, we connect everyone. Like the Pope connects the Christian world, we connect the Web3 world, I guess.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Thank you. And thank you for talking to me. Okay, I'm going to come back to the screens. As I say, I will share the link, so you're not off the hook. We're coming back. I mean, Ethereum is one of the ones that gets referenced as having cool naming schemes, so I thought it'd be worth just kind of putting up how they do their naming. So they, according to their forums, the execution there, they use DevCon cities, and for the consensus layer, they use star names. Star names actually are really cool. They've got some really good names. But obviously a desire to be distinctive, so we can't just do what they did, obviously. But yeah, so that's kind of how they do their naming, and you can see how many they've had over time. Ours will be a little bit different. What we're doing with protocol is potentially once in a lifetime kind of naming. So it's not like we have to have something that has as much road, but it's just to give kind of a little context to what naming schemes can look like. And then I'm putting Arthur on the table, I guess. There was a conversation in Discord where he suggested Tampa and Punta Cana as being cool names that I guess kind of tie back to some of the heritage and some of the story around locations. Locations are an element that come up in multiple namings in Web3. Now, I don't know exactly in what context we will end up saying this, so it kind of has to work in multiple contexts in a way. Like, will people end up saying, oh yeah, with V1, e.g., with Tampa, with Punta Cana, or will people start talking about Pocket V1 or V1 of the protocol? So I've kind of put some permutations just so you can see how it would work. Obviously, we can drive how people say it based on how we say it. So that's one, and I guess the questions back to our kind of criteria right at the start. Does it feel distinctive? Does it feel fresh? Is it easy to say or remember? Does it travel well? Does it sound cool? Is it is it rich as a territory? Again, that one's maybe less vital, but do people have a view on Tampa and Punta Cana?
I actually feel like we should try and stay away from places in particularly. Not only like I'm not really thinking about it in the terms of Ethereum does the same thing, but more like we are supposed to be like agnostic in the end of the day. We support every chain that comes to us and has node runners behind the scenes. So us kind of like specifying a physical location kind of goes against that idea that we are there for everyone.
I think that's a really, really good point. And it feels like there is a word missing in our mind map around that kind of nation agnostic, transnational, that kind of credibly neutral territory. So if you have any brainstorms or anybody else on the call has any brilliant ideas, I will add them to the Mentimeter if I have them. But yeah, no, I think that's fair. Anybody else got any thoughts on this one?
As in the chat, people are talking about naming them after planets or solar systems starting with distance from our sun.
Okay. And how... I can't see the chat because I've got my screen presenting. Let's see if I can try to access it on my phone. Give me 2 secs. This is probably going to chuck me out actually if I do this. I'm not going to do that because it's probably going to chuck me out. Cool. Can you, Zach, just keep me updated on what's going on in the chat? I like solar systems. I do actually. My one concern with them is that it's been a bit played out. I feel like there's a lot of solar language in Web3 already. I do like them because I'm a sci-fi gal for anybody who doesn't know me. And there's a lot of sci-fi around Web3. It feels like it links back to lore. You've got kind of a pioneering aspect in it as well, because you've obviously got you've got communication aspects, which are nice. There is a lot of richness there. Does anybody who is putting that in the chat, would you be willing to talk with your voice? No?
The conversation currently is saying, just relating to an image of Pocket and the astronaut, which might have won a contest. And then another person saying, we currently only have 2 reference points, so a V0 and a V1. Obviously, V1's the upgrade. And he says, adding other names makes it more confusing without adding additional clarity. So maybe only when we start getting into the V1, V1.12, etc. And I'm speaking for people, so if anybody wants to chime in, please feel free.
Yeah, so I think the clarity point is a really interesting one. The one thing I really like about V0 and V1 is it's kind of understated and it's clean. But for me, I think there's a difference between naming and what you have maybe in some of the GitHub repositories or some of the ways that we refer to it internally. Like, I don't think it should remove clarity, and that from what I understand, Ethereum have, they don't stick with just the name. Like, there is also a naming, a versioning language. Ashanti, I feel like you would know that better than I do, so feel free to jump in. And
And something I don't hear explored often is, we really do work with infrastructure. So are there interesting names around the technology itself of like either microconductors or the way data moves across motherboards or something? I think NVIDIA names it after famous mathematicians or science people. So there might be something down the route that is a little more, grounded, right? Like moving data.
I mean,
I'd like to second that one. That sounds pretty cool, actually.
I was about to put you on the spot, Harry, to see whether there are any words that come to mind.
Shannon,
No, but
Claude Shannon.
yeah, Shannon, we talked about this recently, actually.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing people's names. Sorry.
No people's names.
Sorry, I feel like I confused the conversation there. I can't see who's talking, but whoever was talking, if you could carry on talking.
Yeah. So the father of information theory over the last 50 years, he pioneered signal processing and basically that entire field. Some of his mentees are actually leaders in the crypto field. Is Claude Shannon. So as soon as we start talking about data transfer, just Shannon, it has a canon sort of feel to it as well.
Awesome. And how is that
Yeah.
spelled?
SHANNON. I can also put it in the chat.
Perfect, thank you. Also a river in Ireland. That's very important. That's a really interesting angle that we can brainstorm off. Are there any other angles from a technology standpoint that are coming up for people? Is there anything popping into the chat, Zach? I should just kind of jump back here, but then you all get to see yourselves on Meta.
Yeah, there's some cool stuff from Jinx brought up some of the kind of the legends in technology, like Lovelace, Turing,
Yes, yeah.
Feynman, Steve Wozniak, and then Olshansky's just shared Claude Shannon. I think that's a really interesting, rich vein to potentially keep digging and unpacking.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. Okay, coming back, there was another idea that went onto the table from Harry. This was as we were just chatting after one of the ENCODE sessions. He mentioned the word semaphore, and that the word semaphore is kind of cool. And I found out that it has a meaning in technology, that around abstract data that maintains access to an open repository or a shared repository or something, which kind of felt interesting. And then it's obviously got the kind of communication aspect to it. For me, it plays nicely with something like Lighthouse, where you've got kind of that guardian connotation, and then semaphore kind of expanding range and power. So I've got to say I quite liked this one. How do people feel about that? Does it feel distinctive, fresh, easy to remember, easy to say? Would it travel well? Does it sound cool? Any thoughts? I'm going to jump in so I can see. Any thoughts anybody has? I can see Ramiro typing, so I'm reluctant to move on, just in case there's something to say here. Okay, Zach, if that goes in, just let me know. There were other vague ideas that I was just kicking around. We could take kind of sci-fi, go kind of, Trinity and Neo. Neo's got that new, that second meaning to it. Trinity obviously could play into the trilemma. Oasis being the metaverse within Ready Player One, and Anorak being where the prize is hidden. Just trying to think of other words that sit within that kind of communication realm that sound vaguely cool, and Code and Pulse came up. Decentralization and network filer, which is that kind of network of normally of kind of fibrous network, usually associated with mycelium. Synapse, obviously, within the body. Lovelace was in there, and then I just dropped in Bell because I just quite like the word. I like the combination of Pocket Bell. I also think that, you know, in terms of naming, if it was to be Pocket something, then there's probably some kind of cool interplays that we could make in that we just feel, I guess, a little more delightful as you say them. I went with the space exploration with Apollo, which was the first ship the first ship rocket, what are they called, that landed on the moon, and then Eagle was I think the observation station that they put on there. Just in case any of these territories kick off any other thoughts. I mean, when the decentralized network in nature, you've also got bees, ants, apiary, nest, hive. You've got a whole heap of language around that. I would love to maybe come back to our Mentimeter. So if you've still got that open, and just invite you to share any thoughts that have come into your mind, any words that you've maybe kind of thinking about. You don't have to particularly have thought through them, like you might just think they sound cool. Any concepts, anything, I guess, that's in your brain. And then what I'll do after this is I will share the links to this Mentimeter on Discord so that anybody who's not been able to join the community call has a chance to participate. And yeah, if ideas come to you and you don't want to drop them in the Mentimeter, or you want to just bounce them around, we obviously have our Open Unstoppable Brands Telegram group, which I can reshare. North Star is nice, where anybody can jump in, and we can do a group brainstorming. We can do a group brainstorming session in the Discord. My goal is not to let this drag on for too long. You'll be pleased to hear. I would like to be able to put some proposals forward, and I'm happy, Cryptical, and if you want, status quo being one of the proposals, we can just put it all up to vote and the community will decide. Any other things dropping into the chat? Neuromancer law. I would love to hear more about Neuromancer law. I can Google it, but any other thoughts? Excellent. I'm even getting book recommendations. I love getting new books recommended. Anybody who wants to ever drop that, please let me know. And I will definitely look up the Gibson novels. Tell me, are there any places, names, bot devices that you think are interesting in the Gibson novels, Jinx, either in chat or by unmuting yourself? Let me just stop sharing because you don't need to look at yourselves. Okay, well, there are no other thoughts. Thank you, everybody who has added your input into the mix. Appreciate all of the words that you put up there. If anybody is particularly interested in this topic, we could always kind of create a smaller group to bounce things around. I will keep you updated. As I say, the goal is that within the next week or so, there will be a few things that I think are cool that I will put up. I'm happy to put the whole long list up. I just don't want to overwhelm people. And as I said, Crypticorn, we're happy to put V0 and V1 in the mix also. Okay, cool. That's helpful, Jinx. Anybody else have any thoughts on how you want V1 to be referred to? Because I guess at the moment we're just saying V1, aren't we? And it might be interesting just to think about when you use the term V1. Like, is it Pocket V1? Is it V1 of the protocol? Is it just V1? Does it need to be able to stand? See, the upgrade I get, I played around with concepts around that. Again, yeah, upgrade feels like a slight improvement, whereas what we're doing is a lot bigger than that, right? Cool. Okay, I'm going to stop talking to myself. Patch.
Ads, will you be doing this in Discourse, or will you be doing a Discord channel for conversations, further conversations about this?
Well, this is probably a question for you, Zach. So right now, as things stand, I probably need to replicate it across Discord, and Telegram. And maybe that's putting you on the spot too much. But
No,
right
not
now,
at all.
probably put it
I would
across all.
I would suggest we keep it in Discord for now, and then when we bring it to a vote, we can put it in Discourse and link to the conversation. So maybe conversations happening in Discord for now, and then look for an official vote in the forums once we've had some conversation.
Sounds good to me.
Great. And the conversation's still going. Now we're on to book recommendations. Maybe we should have another call where we just recommend books to each other.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, Ads. That was a great workshop. I feel like you've done a few of these now. They're always fun, and it feels great to have the community involved with this. So thank you to everybody who did chime in and contribute. We are about 15 minutes to the top of the hour. I want to just open the floor here for anybody, for everybody really, but if anybody at PNF or PNI wants to make any announcements or say anything, now's a great time to do it. Otherwise, we'll open the floor to the community for any thoughts, concerns, feelings, whatever anybody wants to bring up. All right. Sweet, sweet sound of silence. Okay, well, it seems like we don't have anybody who wants to chime in here, so I think we can wrap up a little bit early. Look for further conversations on the naming in Discord. And if anybody does, again, if anybody has any questions for me or anything they want to bring to my attention, please feel free to just DM me or schedule a call, and I'm happy to sync with them. I don't think we will have a call next week, but look for one the following week. So, yeah, thank you again to everybody. Really appreciate you and appreciate your time.
Awesome. Thanks all.
Bye, all.
Thanks, guys.